Thank you for downloading this podcast from the British Theatre Guide. For more information about British Theatre Guide, please visit britishtheatreguide.info. No Milk for the Foxes was a one-act play written and performed by Conrad Murray and Paul Cree for Beats and Elements at Camden People's Theatre in 2015 that looked in on the lives of two young working-class lads, Marx and Sparks, working as security guards on zero-hours contracts which used beatboxing and live looping between dialogue scenes. An archive recording of this production has now been made available on YouTube in order, according to Conrad, to introduce some diversity into the huge amount of online theatre that has suddenly become available by throwing some working class voices into the mix. I spoke to Conrad and asked him first of all to explain what No Milk for the Foxes is about.
It's about two working class guys on zero-hours contracts working in a factory in Croydon. It's essentially kind of about working the living conditions of working class people and about how kind of capitalism and the current kind of climate forces people to kind of work against each other as opposed to working together, and what the current kind of class system does to people's lives and what's happening in society. But basically, I mean, the main kind of drama in the show is these two guys in one setting the whole time in the factory.
Yeah. I was interested to see, you said you were putting this online because there's so much stuff gone online in the past few months, but you particularly wanted to show some diversity, and you're not talking about Black Lives Matter or Me Too or anything like that. This is about class, isn't it, which is interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, like when it comes to Me Too and Black Lives Matter, the fact is the issue is class there as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you only talk about Black Lives Matter or gender, you're missing the key component. Is you don't get those issues if we sort out the class issue, if we sort out the problems with capitalism. If you're just doing that, then nothing will change. Because sometimes what you don't want is, regardless of what the movement is to say, I'm unhappy. Imagine if I was the boss. Imagine if I was there. What? So we get another prat doing exactly the same thing. Because that's what a lot of this is. It doesn't matter. I don't care. Okay, I'm half Indian. So if we get another Indian saying, well, we need an Indian, we need an Indian Boris Johnson. I don't want an Indian Boris Johnson. We need an Indian CEO of big corporations. I don't want that. Why would I want that? What we want is to change the nature of the beast, to change the how society works, and that's why I'm quite the class issue is much more important. It's a lot more radical. People are scared when you talk about class, much more scared, because there's some thought that needs to go around it. There's some reading that maybe, or some thinking that might have to go around it. And people are scared of class, they're scared of socialism. But, even as socialism aside, class can go off in many different ideologies. It's a lot easier to be led by other people's movements and believe that you're actually making a change when there's never been a class movement. There's never been a real socialist movement in this country apart from post-war and moments. So why hasn't there been a change? We've had a lot of other these wars before. How can we call now our prominent feminists derogatory words? We call them terse and all sorts. People that have made massive changes. This will eat itself. Capitalism will eat its own. It will keep eating its own if we only, of course, people like, I talk about wanting being represented as an Anglo-Indian rare, but the truth is that means very little compared to changing the issues of class. And to me, you can do that with art, with free representation. You can do that in shows, and hopefully it'll make, we want to make people laugh, but really we want to make them think as well and think, hold on, like, if these guys grew up in a council estate and you know about all this stuff, maybe working class people aren't prats. We're not. I mean, I never met any working class people who aren't highly politicized, who don't know all this stuff. But people don't listen. But who do they give the mics? They give the mics, one, to just straight up morons that all like spout any old rubbish. And then they give it to everyone else who speaks their agenda, anyone that speaks their stuff. So, I mean, when you've got a movement, a supposed radical movement that's being co-opted by Nike, McDonald's, Big Pharma, you think you're a rebel. If every newspaper is going along with a movement, you think you're a rebel. Are you joking? It blows my mind. So to me, it's like the class is always the issue. Like, you change the machine. It's like, yeah, I mean, to me, it's obvious, but unfortunately, it's not obvious. This kind of battle, this has to be refought over and over again. I feel like if you think about like the 70s and the early 80s, and it feels like working class people were very mobilized. You'd see you can find stuff about the unions teaching people, but the unions have been smashed. Where do people get this sort of education from? Where do they get it from? And then when you get people like centrists or in the media, people that Owen Jones, people like that who are great, very intelligent guy, but they play the fence. I don't know whether it's for their own personal gain. I don't know what it is. And I can understand everyone needs to eat and everyone needs to live. But you're like, where are the real kind of motivating people? I feel like Jeremy Corbyn was, unfortunately, a lot of people had a lot of problems with him, which, still perplex. I don't know what the problem was personally, but who else is there? I mean, obviously I'm talking about theatre now, but this is politics. But the truth is, this political theatre, like, who are inspirations? I just got to try and do it through shows. I'm trying to start the revolution through theatre, and hopefully people start listening. And maybe I'll be that annoying guy at the back of the room. And it seems like at the current time, I feel like someone with an SWP magazine outside a train station. Do you know what I mean? Annoying. Yeah. But the fact is, even now, I've been to some SWP thing. There's people that are really intelligent. A lot of them don't even vote for just Socialist Party. They vote for Labour, for all sorts of, and they're really smart guys. But they're like, the underground always changes the shift in the overground. So I don't mind if it's like, why are you jumping on the zeitgeist? I'm not about jumping on the local zeitgeist or the new kind of like most popular thing just to look popular. I know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. A lot of these other people, they don't even know why they're doing something. It's very frustrating. Supposed rebels. I mean, these are totally rebels about a cause. If Piers Morgan is co-signing you, you really believe you are a rebel? You really believe that? You're not going to think, hold on, you're not going to question whose bidding you're doing. It's annoying, but you got to keep fighting that good fight and knowing, what and why you're doing it.
And you've got to use the tools that you've got, and you're using theatre. Yeah. And this was created 5 years ago when David Cameron was Prime Minister, and he was on the eve of his election, I believe, until that you actually put this together. So that was a slightly different political moment to what we're in now, wasn't it? Yeah.
But similar. I mean, it was dire.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like New Dawn was coming a worse one, because we're going to go 100% full Tory. But we made the show in knowing that like possibly that was going to be the case. But yeah, it was a crazy time performing the show, and the actual ITN had already done their prediction, and it was like oh fuck, like they've done it, and they like But to me, because it's not about that. It's about that time. It's about all times. But so it's still relevant now.
Yeah.
And hey, even if it wasn't, even if like the particulars wasn't relevant, and then we spoke loads about David Cameron, about that government, that would still be also all right. So.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't mention the specifics of the government in power at the time. It's all about the lives of the people who are suffering under that regime, in a sense, isn't it? And they're very different. The two characters that the two of you play, Marx and Sparks, they've got very different opinions. One's very diligent with his work, and the other's a bit slapdash. One's reads newspapers, the other gets his news from YouTube. So it sets up some interesting discussions there, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, there's a lot of heart in both of the characters.
Yeah.
I think some people felt like one was good and one was bad. And I guess one thing was trying to show is there's no good and bad. There's reasons why. Like, my character mentions, going to school and there being, like how drama affected his life, and how, you can get from his background, reason that's why he is that way. I think that sometimes working class characters, we're either the angel or the demon, and there's no in between.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's no in between, and that doesn't make any sense. We're not allowed to have a nuanced story. And because middle class people make the theatre or they program it, they kind of want to push you on making everything so extreme, either one way or the other. And okay, we pit these two different kind of characters together, but they're both not either good or bad. It's just, they're just people. There's no nuance in a lot of writing, and no nuance in a lot of way that working class people are showed. And actually, sometimes, some of your best mates who are working class can have a heart of gold, but also be fucking awful on the surface as well. Do you know what I mean? Proper brash, reading the Sun, looking at the tits in the paper. And you know what? Even some people at the time were like really disgusted that we had the Sun in there and that the guy was reading it. It's like, but what the hell do you expect? I know loads of people who buy the Sun and wanting to look at the tits. They're not middle class educated people. They can be very smart in different ways. They'll go to a shop for you. They'll like look after your kid. All sorts of stuff that you would never do. Never. Yeah. Right? But they haven't got, like, some people will got different kind of experiences. A lot of so-called liberal people are the most, it's not something, the most illiberal people you're ever going to meet, because they expect you to live in a particular box. And the people they hate the most is if you look a certain way and you're a certain way and you at all do not adhere to their kind of fascist ideals, because you're doing their bidding. You only do our bidding and no one else's. Otherwise, you're a non-person. You are a non-person. It's savage, absolutely savage out there. Yeah. I don't want to get into like racism too much, but if you're non-white, you can only have. Look, I vote for Labour. I go to my local party meetings where we talk about lampposts for hours. The real work being done is like by a lot of old people, right? And it's about very minutiae things to help our community. But you can't have any slightly nuanced views about things. You can't have, they'll stamp on you, like not those people in my local party are really nice, but I'll say the zeitgeist, the commentariat, you've got to like do their extreme bidding. And it's just to give them power, because you can't take away their power. They can take away yours and cancel you at any moment.
Yeah, as we see happens in the play. But there was an interesting story in there that I think chimes with things that are happening now. You're talking about Woolworths, and one of the characters has this story about, not your character, the other character, about how one of his relatives says where the chap's going to shop now that Woolworths has closed. And I think it was only last week, there was some real snobbery about people looking down on the queues outside Primark, because Primark had reopened. And it's exactly the same, saying, why would you queue for Primark? Some people have to, don't they?
Yeah, like, well, we're going to get our pants and socks, mate. Do you know what I mean? The rest of our clothes. Like, it's, and some of those people that were sneering, will pretend to be looking out for you next week. Yeah.
But you covered quite a few different issues in less than an hour, really. And one of the big ones that becomes more important is the issue of the 0-hour contract, which is still something that's not been resolved, but it's something that really affects the lives of people like the ones in the play, doesn't it?
Yeah, people like 0 hours contract has destroyed kind of workers' rights. It's destroyed any sort of solidarity amongst workers. There's loads of reasons. We've got no security, so you already feel kind of on edge. So you're not going to create any relationships with other workers, because you're all fighting for the hours. What it does to you mentally is it destroys you, and you think that everyone else is your enemy. That's your enemy. The idea of it being flexible is ridiculous, because like that's the only there's no choice in it. Like people want jobs. They want to know what they're doing so they can prepare for their future with their jobs. I noticed it's only very middle class people that bang on about the flexibility and how flexible it is, because my friend Millie, when she was at uni, she did this job. So I don't care about that. What about people that want to have a Christmas party? What about people that want a birthday card from other workers? That will not happen in the current climate. Like when my granddad retired, he got so many cards and stuff from all the co-workers because he worked there for so long. Yeah. Like he was a postman, and he still looked, if he looks at his retirement cards, he gets them out, and you can see him like tears in his eyes crying. That don't happen when it's like no one works together, no one's, and it creates desperate people that are very easy to manipulate at all times. But when people say it's very, very frustrating, we don't want to take it back to the 70s, we want to take it back. These were better times. People had jobs, people could do courses. Like even like when I left school, I've still got it actually. I want to put it online. I've got a form, New Deal from the Job Centre, where it's like, if you're a musician, we support musicians to sign on. You just got to tell us what music. Now you can't do that. They force you into doing some other crap, and they're quite rude to you. I signed on for years. I've signed on multiple times, and people are really shocked. What? I'm like, what are you going to do when you got no money? I know a lot of people that are shocked, both middle class people and people that I'm like, you also should be signing on, because they put a massive stigma behind it. Like, oh no, I can't. Yeah. Dude, you're struggling. I can see that you're struggling. You need to do it. Yeah, I don't know how I got to this. I start, once I get turned up, I start going, what did you ask me again?
Well, it was relevant because it was all about the 0 hours contract and the
the 0 hours contract. No. We wanted to explore it because there's a lot behind the 0 hours contract.
Yeah,
it was like once we attack that, then we can attack it. Look, we can talk about all those other things because they're going to be super, super apparent. People don't realize that their jobs and the way that they attack our jobs attacks the rest of our lives, and we can easily be manipulated about everything else. Once people have got job satisfaction, like the rest of their life becomes a lot easier when we feel secure. I talk to my brother, I talk to other people, they're not happy in their jobs. I can see that mentally, that's the only thing they want to talk about. It's ruining the rest of their life because then they're frustrated. It's like, I want to get sacked at any moment. They're not trusting everyone else. He doesn't trust anyone else at his workplace. And, maybe that's true. Maybe they are all dickheads. Or maybe it's because of the situation. Everyone feels super desperate. And people have got skills that are not being used. We've got talent that's wasted. Like, everything is about what's the most efficient. Efficient to who? Efficient for what? People don't question that. When someone else says to them, but this makes me more money at the end of the day, that's not a reason. That's not a reason. You just had loads of people with mental health issues, people dying. Some companies, people like giving birth in the toilets. I don't care about this. You do this because this earns you more money. That's not a reason. But people now parrot. Like, I can't believe in 2020, like, it gets worse. You can see how worse things get. They parrot right-wing answers. And it's like, what are you saying? Why you're parroting their argument that destroys you?
Well, this is what they get from their newspapers, from The Sun and the Daily Mail, which has just taken over The Sun as the most popular newspaper in Britain. They're both right-wing newspapers, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's very insidious. Like the way they do it is like, if you look at an old tabloid newspaper from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the language was actually much more complex and difficult than now. It's got easier and simpler to read, over the years. I remember being a kid being quite confused. I went to a boys' school and all the boys bought The Sun. And I remember that the front cover would be like, Babs on holiday.
Yes.
Babs get their tits out. I remember thinking, like, there's something weird about this. You know what I mean? Like, this is weird. Like, who is this for? Because they hate us, but yet they manipulate us as well by putting tits in there. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like, God, I wasn't allowed. I was telling my girlfriend, it's like, when I was growing up, I couldn't be seen with The Sun. Do you know what I mean? Like for the sexism alone. Do you know what I mean? That was like, you don't buy that. Yeah. And I remember, even if I was stood next to one of my mates who had it in my hand, I went to a school that was on my estate. So like, it was actually just I could see it from my window. It's just there right in front of my house. So even after school, I'd be scared walking with my mates because I was thinking, I don't want mom to see me like, they got The Sun in there. I don't want them to see that. Please. She's going to judge me. She's going to be so like angry. She's going to kick me out. So when people talk about, why do we put characters with The Sun? It's like, because these are real people, and actually you can still love those people as well. But if everyone's just an enemy, if everyone's just then there's no discussion, there's no conversation. Yeah. And maybe, if people, if I talk to someone and they think, maybe The Sun is bad, maybe, whatever, maybe it is, but they carry and read it, that's also good enough, because maybe they're going to think about it over time. It takes a long time to change your mind. It's not just do it now or you're cancelled or it's finished. But again, a lot of the ways that people supposedly who support like who are left wing or whatever or liberal, a lot of the ways they act very loud, super loud statements, ostentatious, brash, very obvious things they come out with, no thought in it, just really catchy, really sticky now. I mean, these are all the things we say we hate about Trump. But the other guys doing the same thing. A lot of the other all the comments are doing exactly the same thing. And you think you're a rebel? And you think these people, this is for you? Like, no, you don't beat it with the same thing. Well, what's the point in winning? I hate that. Like, well, that's what they're doing. That's what we should do.
Yeah.
Well, might as well not do it, innit? Might as well just let them keep doing it. And let the perpetual boot on our face can just stay there.
Yeah.
We can enjoy that.
Despite all of this political discussion, there is a lot of humour in this play as well.
Oh, yeah.
There's a great little rapport that the two of you got, which I suppose it helps that you both wrote it as well as performing it. And also the music. It's a hip-hop. It's not really musical as such, but It has the live looping, which you do, and the some rap numbers as well. So can you just talk about how that's integrated into it?
Yeah, we kind of wanted to. One, we knew we just wanted to rap in there and put some hip hop in there.
Yeah.
Because we're like, yo, people need to hear some banging tunes, man. But it was, we were like, how can we like do some like monologues and find out what's going on in their minds and do more of an overview, worldview. A good way to do that, explore things that they wouldn't maybe not say out loud and into their psyche was through the music. And it kind of opens up in that way. It's like more like soliloquy and more monologue in those moments. Rap music is a great way to do that. It's just like to commentate and open up the world, and it's left for you listening to kind of judge on what it is actually being said, or, how you feel about it. But yeah, and also we felt kind of, to me, like rap music and hip hop is also part of my working class culture. Do you know what I mean? Growing on the estate, it was like hip hop, reggae, being blared out. That's part of my background. And a lot of working class plays growing up, like, because I would seek out things like that. Always Northern. And sorry, but it always, great, I always felt like they miss out in inner city estates. And unfortunately, I see what's happening is they sometimes pit North, against South. And sometimes it's like, all you Londoners. And I think, like someone I've got solidarity here is running down Londoners, and we're in the same situation. Like, all you posh Londoners are rare. It's like, what? Why did you just say Londoners like plural, like all of us? We're in the same boat here, but we don't really get to hear those voices. People don't think like working class, like hip hop, the way that live. It's like, it's different. So no, it's the same thing. It's all of the same thing. And I actually, through like open mics and stuff here, like I knew some like working class artists from up north, and they'd like play songs and do spoken word and stuff. And it was like, I love the stuff, I understood the aesthetic, but it's always kind of like, well, how can we do what we're doing and do the same thing basically? Like, it's not all one thing, but it's all solidarity.
Yeah. And you've done some other shows that you've not been in, like one of the last shows I saw before lockdown was Crongton Nights, which you worked on. Now that's very different in that you're teaching actors to do the beatboxing instead of you doing it yourself. So what was that like?
Yeah, it was fun, man. Really cool. It was like kind of coaching and passing on those skills, but it was from a lexicon and word that they understood, they knew, and the genres of music was like what they understood, what they knew. But it was fun. Like a lot of them hadn't written before, like music, or done that sort of thing before. So when you do something with someone and they realize, wow, like I'm a composer. Wow, I'm I can write like hit songs. I can do this. It's great to unlock that tool in people, because it's educated out of us. We're not all lyricists or songwriters, everyone can do that. Kids write super complex like compositions until they go to school. They're singing and making mad key changes, all the time. And then that gets educated out of us. And these guys are the song guys. But yeah, it was great, man, working with those guys. And what was cool is like, they had never done anything like that before. Some of them might have rapped, whatever, but they hadn't done that kind of style before. But they then went on to like make it. Once I'd left I'll never leave the production, but once I wasn't around anymore, they made another song in that style and that aesthetic and that genre and stuff, and made a video for it and stuff. And it was kind of like really cool that it was something that they'd kind of held on to and carried on creating in that way. Yeah, it was cool, man. I loved working on that show. Big production, big like revolving stage. Yeah. You feel part of this massive thing, as well as I love like the smaller intimate stuff. There's definitely something in there when you see those big theaters and whatever, you think, wow, like we're in here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
take over.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it at the Lowry in Salford, which it was the smaller of their theatres, but it's still a big stage compared to where you performed the Foxes show, which is a tiny little basement.
Mate, yeah, it's small, man. It's small. Although CBT have got a massive reach, but like culturally, I think that their work goes far. But yeah, man, like it's been a journey to go from that small space to now passing on those skills in big theatre spaces. I think like in the 5 years, like it's been a massive journey. And me and Paul, like we spoke about all the different things that we wanted to do. We're like, we want to create like shows. We want people to know it is what we're doing. We want to be going into other shows. We want to create education packages. We want to go into schools, universities. We want to write a book. Like we're all like going crazy. But like I'm writing a book now for Bloomsbury on hip hop theatre. And we were doing a lot of these things. You know, I don't want to sound like I'm blowing my own trumpet or nothing, but because we've done all this stuff with support of venues and producers and all the people and young people that we work with. But what's good about it is that we kind of laugh to ourselves like, wow, all these things that we wanted to do are happening and are currently happening, and some of them have happened, which is kind of crazy. Do you know what I mean? Because we wasn't actually aiming towards them. They were just like, let's just keep doing what we're doing. Hopefully these things happen. Yeah. We definitely didn't have a sensible plan. It was more like, yo, we're going to do this, get the champagne out. Whoa. Like, let's go nuts.
Yeah, well, we all do that when we're younger, but not everybody manages to fulfill all those dreams. You know, when you're dreaming of being on Parkinson or whatever, when you're younger, it doesn't happen for most people, do they?
Yeah, no. So just got to enjoy it when it's there, like while it's happening, and kind of recognize it as well.
So what's it been like looking back at something that you not just wrote, but also performed 5 years ago? I mean, most of us, if we look back at something we did a few years ago, we cringe a little bit and think, well, we would have done it differently now. So are you still proud of this as something that you did in your past?
Yeah, I mean, on like overall, I'm glad that we made that moment, that it's a class hip hop based show, and what we were saying, and that we did it without no money. We did that whilst working full time. You know, Paul was a TA all day in school, and then we'll meet up in the evenings to do that. You know, we didn't know that anyone was ever gonna be interested, and I was working teaching all day, knackered. Even when we did the whole run of the show, we were teaching all day. So there's a level of like, I can't believe we actually did it, and like we got in the Guardian, and like we got like all these, quite career-defining things, like things you get super excited about. Not that I'm not actually like particularly promoting that one publication, but people listening might have heard of that. But and so it's massive. If I look at the performance now, I think, oh man, I could have performed that a lot better. You think, that would be improved, and like my diction, and like, but then I think that's the beauty of it, is the fact that we were running before we could walk. Like for me, like someone said, how important is your acting? I'm like, to me, the acting is a tool for me to like get these messages out there, to me to do these things. Now I can see that I've improved in my acting. I've improved in my diction, but that's a process over time. I've never sat down as an abstraction and just been like, I am acting now. To me, it's all comes as one. Like the music comes with the acting, comes with the political messages, comes with the comedy, comes with the beatboxing and the teaching. It's just one thing. Nothing's abstracted. So if I look at it in that way and abstract, think, oh, my beatboxing is better now, or oh, I could have sung that better. It doesn't make any sense, because I'm not even that kind of person. Do you know what I mean? It just all comes out. Like the song "No Milk for the Foxes," Paul's always like, bro, when did you write that? Because we were making the show, and all of a sudden we were making these scenes and ideas, and you started doing it. I was like, oh, it was a freestyle. The whole verse was, and I just wrote it down. Because he's like, but I was there when you were doing it over and over again. I'm like, it just came like that, and the thing came like it. And like the way I perform that song has improved over the years, but I never wrote it down, or it wasn't like how are the notes going to go, what are the lyrics going to be. I just freestyled it, and then just kept like, oh, got keep doing, and I kept doing the same words over and over again, like never wrote it down. But so again, so to me, to look at it in that way, it's kind of redundant. But I do think, oh man, like in that performance, someone walked through the stage in the show. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
You couldn't get any more crappy than that.
You reacted very well to it, though. It got a laugh.
Like it was funny, man. But at the same time, that's what's the beauty of it, is that it's rough and ready, and like even in the copy, and like when I tell the people, look, it's not even recorded that very well. Like this is how ghetto this is. Like the guy that I paid to film that ran off all the footage for 4 years. I had to and I was like, we wanted to put a tour package together. Like we got such good response from the audiences from that show. Like even now, I've had people that are now like older who are working in like drama schools, come at staff, being like, you made No More for the Foxes. And I always think they're going to talk about a different show.
Yeah.
Tonight, Frankenstein. I'm like, oh, okay. And they're like, that show changed my life. I'm like, oh, really? Like, that changed my whole perception of theatre, of like what could be theatre and like what could be done. I was like, thank you, man. Cheers. People really affected people. Like I had some people come up to me being like, I can tell like you lived on an accountant's estate, like from the stories that I know it. You know what I mean? Cool, man. So we wanted to do a tour package together. We've got this filmed. We've got some great images. And then the guy that filmed it like refused to give us the footage, even though he filmed it on my camera, my SD card. It's my material that he's filming. He claimed that he owned it. Like, what, you own the show? And it's like, you've got to pay me for it. But I already paid the guy.
Yeah.
In the end, it took like multiple threats. I had people been like, yo, I'll go down to his door, I'll kick his door down, bust him up for you. I'm like, no, loudest. Like, I'm a qualified teacher. Like, no, can't do this. It's like, because really this idiot fool was trying to mess up for more money.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I already paid you. Like, I understand your hustle, but anyway, I got the footage back, so that's how that is. But yeah, that maniac, I don't know what he thought. Also, that was why we never did the show again. We never. So when we were getting it back, it was like this lost child that we never actually had got to see for a long time, or evaluate even. So like, it is something quite funny, because looking back, you're younger as well.
Yeah.
And there's some footage of the audience and stuff. So I recognize some of the audience. I know, like, the guy that's in the video at the start and the end working on the bar, he's now like the executive manager at CPT. So he's like been upgraded now. Right. He's like, so like, it's quite cool to see like the journey kind of since then. But no, I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it, what it can do in this moment. There are other pieces of work that should be streamed, not just National Theatre, James Corden, multimillionaires being rammed down my throat, some like, garbage. There are other stuff, there are the more fringy stuff, the more open mic kind of stuff that like, which it keeps arts alive, which keeps communities alive. And, that was super important. Like, it as a tool, as a conversation point is super important to me.
Yeah. So you've got a book coming out. I know it's uncertain times about when things are going to get back on stage, but do you have any plans for the future that you can talk about?
Yeah, I've got we're going to do High Riser State of Mind, which is a Beats Element show. Me, Paul, Lakeisha and Junior at Manchester Home in November. It was supposed to be in August, but it's changed now. So we might do a socially distanced performance of it, and then maybe a digital version of it as well. Yeah. And, working with CPT to kind of tour that show. But me and Paul have been talking about touring No More for the Foxes as well. And being like, we should do it, like, because it's a fun show. I think also, like, it's serious, but it's funny and you have a good time, but it's also serious. I think that gets lost now. There's a lot of like, either like, very serious, I'm going to cut my wrists, or funny, but mainly the cut my wrists. But that's very middle class, or pandering to the middle class, because, if I go speak to my nan or speak to anyone in my family, it will be like, oh yeah, yeah, I was sexually abused, bro. Yeah. Like, this is our normal life. It's normal to us. Yeah. But they want to put strings underneath that, some dark strings, and all of a sudden the lights change. I'm like, nah, like, it's maybe like the thought of losing your job for a second might make you think, but there's a lot of other serious stuff that's just our lives, isn't it? That's just normal. So we laugh and joke about that. In fact, that's what we laugh and joke about. But that one of these things happen to you, you'd be super serious, you'd be banging on, you'd be like doing all sorts of stuff, like, protests, everything. But this is a daily occurrence to all of us. So I feel like the comedy element is missing to bear the laugh and stuff. And I mean, comedy has been killed, right, in current times as well. Like, everyone's so sensitive, people are very scared. But to me, that's a political tool to censor people and to shut people up. Don't get me wrong. Like, I've always hated Little Britain. To me, it was a very classist show. Two middle class, super rich guys, like, criticizing everyone. Like, are you kidding me? This has nothing to do with current zeitgeist. Ask anyone I went to uni with, whatever, they'll be like, yo, everyone loved the show. Conrad hated it. So, but at the same time, you can see the way they're using the same hammer to crush everything. So we'll never see Only Fools and Horses again. We'll never see Steptoe and Son again. We'll never, Pinter's going to be burned. Like, we're gonna see like a lot of. So to me, it's about it's about these stories, these complex characters, and through humor being portrayed. That's the reality of working class life. Is we have to laugh through it. Otherwise, we'll be dead. We'll kill ourselves. And we're not being told to laugh through it, are we? We're told to do their bidding. We're told to get involved in their political movements, to push their agendas and not question who's funding this, who's funding all these supposed protests. We're not told to do that. But getting out No Milk would be really cool. And me and Paul are actually working on a Netflix treatment for No Milk for the Foxes series with a film production company. So who knows? Marx and Sparks could be on people's screens very soon. Hopefully, just as radical, and hopefully close to the bone, and not getting cancelled.
That was Conrad Murray, whose play No Milk for the Foxes, written and performed with Paul Cree, is now available on the Beats and Element page on YouTube, where you can also find a link to make donations via Patreon. You can find out more about Conrad on his website at www.conradmurray.org. You've been listening to a podcast from British Theatre Guide. For more information, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.